Before you dive into any properties, the most important thing here is that to really understand which market that you're going to target. And I'm going to kind of walk you through my thought flow on how I'm going to look for different markets, different areas, different neighborhoods. And then I'm going to start looking into the properties after I understand everything first. First thing first, really understand that US market is extremely big. It's much, much bigger than Canadian market. Population is much higher. So there's multiple different things that you need to look into. But on a high level, I'm just going to give you some answers here. Part of the reason why we're not investing in Florida is because our philosophy is not in short-term rental. Like if you want to do short-term rental, great. Florida, South Carolina, Texas, all those areas can be pretty good. Maybe Arizona too. But we believe that the moment that it's remote, you kind of want to go into more like a passive approach, multi-family building with a long-term tenants. And if we want to mix it with a short-term rental, mid-term rental, we can probably do that. But we want everything to be as stabilized as possible. That's our philosophy. So anchor your strategy first. The next thing will be the market. Which market is the right market for us to get into? So part of the reason why we pick Ohio after like looking through so many different markets is because number one, the price point is much, much lower compared to anything else. And with the interest rate going up, a lot more people are trying to figure out how to create that cash flow. So if you're switching from tier one city, let's say if you're in Toronto or Vancouver, and you're trying to like figure out how to get into the US market, tier one city to another tier one city doesn't really make a lot of sense because price point is almost similar. There's no cash flow. So you want to identify exactly what you're trying to solve. With us, we know that every time that we're making a move, it has to solve our major problem, which right now is price point. It's the rent and price ratio. It's a landlord-tenant board, scalability, and all of that. So when we take into consideration, really the decision is very easy to make, which is Ohio, because a lot of Canadian investors are coming down here. A lot of New Yorkers are going down here. Florida here isn't much cash flow, so it's also moving here. A lot of people from Tennessee, it's also getting a little bit expensive. So Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, these states are getting a lot of attention. I try to stay away from like these areas because of this tornado zone. So Ohio, naturally speaking, became our next target. So now that really talk about exactly where we can invest. So Columbus, Cleveland, or in some cases would be Cincinnati. Either way works. Honestly, any market actually works when you're looking at tier one all the way to like tier two, tier three cities. So I'm gonna pick Cleveland just because it's a lot closer to a lot of people in Toronto, and then naturally there's quite a bit of appreciation at the current moment. If I look at the real estate growth right now in 2025, I'm just using ChatGPT. Depending on the areas, on average is 17.1% increase for the median home sales price. Are we going to be getting that every single year? No, not really. But at the same time, it's a good indication to show you that things are moving and the price point is still extremely cheap. Okay, so that's the high level stuff, kind of narrowing down into different markets. And obviously, we also have other real estate in Texas and Florida, but you know what, let's use this one because learning a new market is all following the exact same formula and same process. Okay, so first thing that you want to do, I'm going to get into the Cleveland market right now. The very first thing that you want to do is just get on Zillow. Okay, we're going to be looking at the heat map. And this method really will allow you to see where the transactions are happening, will allow you to really dive into the areas a little bit better. Some people like C-class neighborhood transitioning to B-class neighborhood. Maybe that's the starting point that you're going to do. If you want a little bit more like a passive approach, not a lot of operation that you have to handle, then you go with the A or B-class neighborhood in this city. So first thing first, you want to go into Zillow. You want to go to sold. Okay, and then go to home. Again, at this point, you should have an idea of what type of strategy that you want to use. So find a house, find a multifamily in our cases, and we always want to make sure that the property is big enough. So anything under 3 bedroom won't work. So we want to go for 3+, bathroom 3+. Price point, I want to eliminate all the A-class neighborhood because I'm looking for a value-added approach. So anything above, let's say 300K, maybe I'm not interested. And I also want to avoid anything that's like way too low, as in, D-class neighborhood, very distressed property. So anything under 50K, I'm not even going to touch. So I might try to target this one. Actually, I'll even do like 250K, just more applicable to a lot more people. After I select these two, the next thing that I will do is I'll choose sold in the next 12 months, just so I can get more relevant data in here. Apply. Now you're seeing a lot of properties. A lot of them are also duplex, triplex for around 200K. Okay, so this is really awesome. But one thing I really want you to pay attention is that if you want to go down a little bit, you're going to see that there's certain areas in Cleveland. There's no transaction at all in the past 12 months. And there's a reason for it. And the reason being is that it doesn't fall into our criteria, or there's simply no transaction because the market is a little bit too distressed. The area is too distressed that no new buyer are willing to actually get into those type of areas. So we use this heat map to kind of identify high level assessment for the areas. Just giving you guys some ideas. Lakewood is an A+ neighborhood. Okay, so anything under 250, there isn't a lot of that, so you don't see a lot of transactions here. But the moment that you move it over to, let's say, 450, you're going to see way more. Okay, so using HEMA is a really good indicator for you to kind of identify exactly what type of neighborhood that you want to look at, because when the market and options so many, you're going to end up comparing different things and you're really delayed the due diligence process. So every single one of them need to actually get passed before we want to move on to the next one. So for example, we actually have 8 different checkpoints for us to pass before we're willing to actually make an offer. And using heat map is literally just the first one. Let's dive into this a little bit more. So when you're going in here, you can even remove houses and try to narrow it down into multifamily. So I might have the investing philosophy that everything I buy has to be minimum 2 units. right? It cannot just be a single family. It has to be 2 units or even 4 units. So by selecting all of that, I know exactly where all the transactions are happening. So West End of Cleveland obviously is a popular spot for a lot of transactions, a lot of investors, buyers, sellers. And on the right hand side, you can also see these areas, which is what we call the Heights. They're also doing pretty well. University Heights is also pretty good. And you're going to see a lot of East Cleveland in here, okay? But obviously, always do your due diligence. This is only the very first thing that I want you to look at, because these properties, they are selling here for a reason. That means that investors are attracted to these areas, which means there's opportunities in here. So on the high level, this is a heat map approach that we're using when it comes to assessing a completely new market that we're not familiar with. Once you get to this part, it becomes a lot easier to go through the rest of the checkpoints. Okay, in the next video, I'm going to show you exactly how we underwrite a deal. Let's say you know exactly where to look for and you're going to dive into the property. We're going to show you a tool that will allow you to underwrite a deal literally within seconds.